I am Matt Valley, and welcome to episode number 144 of the Rock and Roll Research Podcast, where we share the super cool backstories and side gigs of the insights and analytics pros that you trust. I'm really excited today to welcome my friend Paula Rosecky to the program. She may be familiar to many of you. I'm sure you have maybe talked to her at a conference, maybe you've worked with her before. Everybody seems to know Paula, so really excited to dig into this. Now she's a qualitative consultant, a true expert in the qual space. She's also a professional development consultant, and she's been doing all of this under her own company since 2000, like suspiciously around the date of the pandemic, right? But Paula has had this really fascinating career before doing all of that. She's worked for some great companies like Miller Brewing, DDB Worldwide. She spent some time in the Czech Republic, and there's like one of these jobs that I really want to dig into and learn more about. So we'll get into that. But you might think you know everything about Paula. I've got something new to share as well. An interest of Paula's outside of the insight space. So we're going to get into all that and more on today's podcast. So welcome to the show, Paula.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for having me here, Matt. How fun is it? So much fun. Can't wait to dive in.
Yeah. You know what? I should have had you on much earlier,
Oh,
but I think I have to thank our mutual friend, Matt O'Mara, for saying, hey, come on, man, have Paula on the podcast. And I'm like, yeah, I'll have Paula on the podcast, of course. So
shout
thank you
out to
for that,
Matt.
Matt.
Thank you, Matt O'Mara. Appreciate that.
Shout out to Matt, but also a shout out to Paula, because if you're viewing this on video, you may notice that I have this new microphone. Hopefully, it sounds better for those listening on audio. My new microphone is courtesy of Paula. She's like, hey, look, your podcast, it's great, but it sounds like a cheap demo tape. So you need better
I think I
production.
use those words exactly.
I'm just making it rock and roll.
Okay.
And so she sent me this awesome microphone. Now, my setup is a little hinky. See, it's sitting in a pot of money because I need to get a stand. But hopefully it sounds better. And I thank you so much for that, Paula. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, I think, I love seeing people up level. So I was like, you know what? What you do here for the industry is such a gift. The storytelling and the questions you use are, very enlightening and fun to listen to. So I thought, you know what? Why not give Matt a little bit back?
Well, thank you so much. I am truly grateful. So hopefully it sounds better to those of you out there. If not, I'll fix my setup and I'll make it work. So, all right, Paula, we're here to talk about you today. So let's go ahead and get started. Tell us how you first got into this crazy world of insights and take us a little bit on your journey.
All right, all right. I love talking about journeys. As you might imagine, I've done plenty of customer journey work. Well, my path actually started in college. I grew up in Wisconsin. I went to Madison, UW
Ah,
in Madison. I studied sociology and psychology, and I remember doing those experiments where you had to like make something up on something you would study, and I decided to do something around eye contact and
okay.
make people really uncomfortable. And I love learning about how people think and feel and behave and how they thought about how they make decisions. And after studying that, I'll kind of fast forward when I graduated, I decided to move to the Czech Republic because I didn't want to be a social worker.
Yeah,
And I thought I need to go figure out what I want to do with my life. And as I have mentioned quite a bit on LinkedIn, my parents are immigrants from former Czechoslovakia, now the Czech Republic or Czechia. And
right.
I decided to go figure them out. Like I was like, my parents seemed just so like strange to me because they didn't speak English.
Right.
I mean, we were pretty much kind of the typical immigrant story. I grew up in downtown Milwaukee, but then they decided to move to the suburbs. And I'd always felt just a little bit odd, like I did not belong. even though, I'm a white-bodied lady, but still there were things about me that seemed strange. And so I decided to go to the Czech Republic, and I actually got my first job. I didn't speak Czech that well, but I spoke enough where at the time, because this was after the fall of the Berlin Wall, I
Right.
was able to do some translating and eventually got good enough to become an interpreter. And I worked for the
Oh, cool.
corporation, and they had just bought like all of these stores that were formerly owned by the government.
Did you say Kmart?
Yes,
Okay, Kmart. Yeah.
Kmart. Yeah, it was
Old
part of.
school.
It wasn't particularly a successful endeavor, but it taught me so much. And so I literally was helping in the buying office, and we would go through product lists of stuff, trying to figure out how do you say it in Czech, how do you say it in English. And I brought a prop because I literally would have to mime, like, how do you say, meat grinder or whatever, or potato masher. So that was my entree into learning to read between the lines, like
Okay.
listening to what people were saying, but then also interpreting in all kinds of other ways. And
Sure.
so then, after a few years of that, I decided to go back to school and I got my MBA from the Rochester Institute of Technology, which had a sister program in the Czech Republic with the Charles University. And I
Oh,
couldn't
cool.
leave because then I was like, oh my gosh, now I've been in Europe for a while. And it was just such an exciting time. And I wasn't one of the musicians on the Charles Bridge, which a lot of people were doing at that time. But I was there absorbing all of that, energy. But I had a job. And so then the next job, even though as much, that's actually during my MBA is where I fell in love with marketing.
Yeah.
And I was discouraged from going into research. I had sort of this leaning and passion into understanding people better and how they decide things and brands and really understanding people's relationship with brands, especially in a country that was like developing newly to the idea of branding in a
Right.
sense.
Yeah.
So I stayed there and I got a job at then DDB Needham, and my first big client was McDonald's. And
Oh,
I have to say, it was a little bit of a struggle for me. Like I was like, wow, here I am helping these big brands put a footprint in these countries. And I realized, you know, it was going to happen anyway. And why not learn as much as I can from this experience? And I got so much out of it and
sure.
helped create national planning for their advertising planning and supported people who were opening restaurants. And it really gave me a sense of how to work, on the vendor side very, very closely with the client side.
Sure.
Yeah, and then eventually that chapter closed. I decided to come back to the US and I had to go back to where I came from in near the Milwaukee area.
Hmm.
And I got a job at Miller Brewing Company.
Yeah.
And it was
Cool.
like score because if anyone has any familiarity with Wisconsin and Milwaukee area, like that is a wonderful, wonderful company to be a part of. So that was
Sure.
my client side insights entree, where I did brand equity work and tracking. And I had
Hmm.
a real passion for multicultural work, having just lived in Europe for so long. I needed
Right.
like the understanding of cultural nuances. So I worked in Hispanic marketing, sort of supporting the folks in the Hispanic marketing area, and lots of focus groups with Spanish language folks who spoke Spanish.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was great. It was a wonderful, wonderful place to get my feet on the ground and insights. Eventually, they actually sent me to Dallas, because I had accumulated a lot of knowledge in his Spanish language space, and they wanted some support in the local market area. So then I got to support
Sure.
a sales organization. I did cross-border studies with, if you remember, Sinovate and like some of these
Yeah.
companies. And I loved ethnography. That's where I fell in love with ethnography.
Hmm.
Eventually, I went to an ethnography company, and all I did for a few years is in-home research, shopping with people, going
Yeah.
through their cupboards, going through refrigerators. So, and actually, that was the beginning of really deep video work. So, a lot of our deliverables were around video. So, that's where I
Sure.
had to get really comfortable with that technology at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then eventually I moved out to this where I am now in Seattle and
Hmm.
worked for a number of years. A big next big chapter of my career was at a boutique agency in the Seattle area called Hemispheres, and we were a small and very mighty group. And we worked on some incredible brands like Nike and Tempur Sealy and Microsoft and Amazon and
Yeah.
everything from, oh, in Georgia Pacific, I did a huge project on B2B and B2C understanding of a customer journey, and
Sure.
that was multi-year work. So I've really had a very steeped understanding of the consumer insight space.
Yeah. What an incredibly unique and interesting background. I just love that cultural immersion that you've had, both in another country in the Czech Republic, but then in the US as well. It's really fascinating background. So
Yeah, thank
I'm
you.
glad I learned that. I did not know that about
Yeah.
history, so glad we covered that.
Yeah, yeah. It shapes still today a lot of how I approach my work is really trying to see people fully, knowing
Yeah.
that you don't always know the full story, asking deeper questions. One of my favorite questions is to ask, like, allow someone to tell you as much as they think they can tell you, and then maybe ask that one extra question, like, well, what is underneath that? And what is actually underneath that? You know,
Yeah.
um, there always is. There's always another layer.
Yeah. And what kinds of work do you typically take on now in your practice?
Well, what's interesting is I so in between some of what I just shared, my parents both passed away,
Mhm.
and both of them of pretty traumatic cancers. And I was a caregiver for my mom for quite a while before she passed. And then shortly thereafter, my dad passed, and that shaped me too. Um,
Sure.
so, and I did a lot of identity work as I was kind of working on myself and learning about coaching and facilitating. So I actually do work around identity formation and kind of what we call in research sensitive topics or
Hmm.
things that are kind of more difficult to talk about. Maybe they require, I think of it in terms of like requiring some um, kind of high emotional intelligence because it's not easy
Sure.
to talk about some of these things, aging, you know, putting your parents into places that are maybe uncomfortable for you or for them. So those kinds of things, women's health, that type of thing.
Hmm. Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
will say too, the other thing that is that I love doing, I just was at the Future of Insights conference in Atlanta, which was amazing.
Yeah.
And it's also facilitating groups. So not only there's many types of facilitation.
Hmm.
Qualitative research is facilitating one type of conversation, but then you might need to facilitate a stakeholder conversation or a team conversation, and
Right.
understanding where are they coming into it? What are they saying, thinking, feeling, and doing?
Yep.
What are we doing? And what is the state you want to take them to next? And then creating the experience to get there.
Yeah, for sure. I've been involved in a lot of that, which is so
Yeah,
important sometimes in just making sure that the insights land. First of all, that they're shaped and that they land in the organization. So good stuff. Cool.
yeah.
So here's something that I uncovered in our initial conversation that I definitely did not know. I did not know that you had some minor successes as a singer, shall we say, when you were a young person. And you have gotten a bit back into it recently. So tell me a little bit about your singing experience.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's funny. So I think some of this, as we had been talking, and then I was thinking about it more, I also realized how, one of like these seminal moments can really shape who we are as well, right?
Sure.
And I mentioned living in Milwaukee, we moved out to the suburbs, and that was when I was in the fourth grade. And I did not know anyone, of course, and I was not wearing the jeans. I was wearing like polyester pants, like, and I had very few friends, and we were asked to do a talent show, and people were pairing up and doing the thing, or, they were like playing the spoons, and I was like, I don't know how to play the spoons. So I decided to sing. And at that time, I was really into that Terry Jacks song, We Have Joy, We Have Fun, We Had Seasons in the Sun.
Yeah.
So I got up and sang that song, and I did not stop. I sang the whole dang song. I remember my teacher, Miss Sisk, she was just like staring at me, and she's like, wow, she is going to sing this whole song. And I did. And I won the Snickers bar. That was, first prize.
Hey, congratulations.
Yeah, yeah.
Wonderful.
So I didn't sing. So I think I was in chorus for a little while, and I ended up playing the clarinet. Um,
Okay.
Stevie Wonder. I played a lot of Stevie Wonder on the clarinet, which was amazing. And but I didn't really sing much except for in the shower, occasional karaoke or something. Until a few years ago, I decided to dive back in. It had been really calling me. So I took a jazz singing class, and we were required to pick four songs to sing. And ultimately, that would culminate to a recital on a stage in this little jazz club with accompaniment in the background, uh,
Nice.
true musicians. So you had to like learn how to count. And I just remember like like turning around to the band and just being like, wow, this is fun. This is so fun. So
Yeah.
I like pushing myself to do things that are a little uncomfortable. For a little while, I was doing audio rooms on LinkedIn that I really enjoyed too. And I like using voice, and I like studying voice and knowing how to use your voice to
Yeah.
influence if possible.
Yeah, cool. I should talk to you because I sing backups for my band, for my bands. And I just need some help, man. I've been stuck at this plateau for a long time. Uh, some notes I just can't sing on key. Good thing it's punk rock, so it
Okay.
doesn't matter that much, but still, I mean, still it's a thing. So
Yeah.
we should talk.
Yeah. We strive for perfection and we just keep going.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. Cool. All right, Paula. So with this fascinating background that you have, you've sort of touched insights from lots of different corners and areas and perspectives. But of course, I'm sure you have some thoughts on where this industry might be headed. Curious to know what's on your mind as you look forward to the future of insights.
Well, there's no denying, of course, that we are very influenced right now by what the rapid change of technology.
Right.
And the idea that we need to keep up with it, I think, is on a lot of people's minds.
Sure.
So I think as an industry, as we try to keep learning what's going on in the technology space and understanding it and understanding its pros and its cons and how it's going to be used, right? Just because we're all using AI does not mean that it's appropriate for everything. It may
Sure.
be a lot better at data analytics than it is understanding, how humans are reacting to things. As people are learning about synthetic data and how that's going to be used, I know like some of these words we're using a lot but I question whether they're actually being used in companies that personally I am going to be involved with. I think the larger companies, big enterprises that have the resources and the means, and they can allot the time to really dig in and do the research on research. This is something that I heard about in the Future of Insights conference just a week ago.
Hmm.
Um, so not everybody is actually doing that. There are people on the forefront of doing it. So as they're learning, what can we do? We can learn how to use the tools better. We can explore. We can push our own boundaries. And I think most importantly, we can collaborate. I think
Hmm.
that's why I think facilitation or consulting is important because we can ask the right questions. We can set up parameters for how we can talk to each other or how we can experiment with each other, how we can network. Networking and learning from other people is going to be really important. And watch
Yeah.
your time. I think a lot of this is pretty stressful for people.
Hmm.
So how can you yourself allot enough time, but also not drive yourself crazy in trying to keep up?
Yeah.
How does that land
Yeah.
with you, Matt?
Yeah. No, 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 that works. I know exactly what you're saying. I mean, sometimes when you just think of like a particular area, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm so far behind on this.
Yeah, yeah,
That sort of triggers some anxiety, right? And you can become really stressed about it. But you somehow have to adopt and adapt without shutting down. And it's not easy for a lot of people.
yes.
Yeah,
Keep centered. We all got to keep centered through all of this. Yeah.
for sure. For sure. Excellent. Okay. So, Paula, this is a podcast, it's media, right? I'm interested to know as you think about the landscape of media that's earning your time, what are you tuning into these days?
Well, I'm going to say some of the very obvious players like Green Book, Quirks.
Yeah,
There's a podcast that I listen to called Nudge by Phil Agnew, which is
yeah.
about behavior, how people behave, and marketing science, which is just fascinating to me.
Hmm.
Really fun to listen to. On the kind of leadership side and along the lines of how we collaborate, is Rethinking by Adam Grant. Are you familiar
Okay.
with that?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's an organizational psychologist that I love. All of his guests are really interesting. Um, there's a podcast called Coaching for Leaders that also is great just if to understand how to work with teams. Um, Priscilla McKinney's podcast obviously is one that is fun to listen to. She's
Yeah,
always got some great marketing tips.
for
Um,
sure.
Yeah, I've got a number of like Reid Hoffman does great interviews with people who are innovators. Esther Perel is someone I really deeply admire on interpersonal relationships. So
Yeah.
in those genres. Audiobooks, I'm a big audiobook person. I think you've said you're not really. I do an occasional book, and and I'm also part of a facilitator group where I'm able to get early access to some stuff. This is the Game Storming 2.0. So I
Yeah.
learn from all kinds of places.
Yeah, super cool. So you mentioned audiobooks. I do prefer the physical medium. I don't have a commute, right? So I work from home. So
Yeah.
if I had more time in the car, maybe I'd listen to more audiobooks. But if I do go on a road trip, then typically it'll be audiobooks for me. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's in there. It's in the mix.
Oh, there's someone that I just is like one of my gurus, and that is Terry Gross on Fresh Air.
Okay. Yeah.
She is like one of the premier interviewers of the world. And I love learning the way that she talks to people and the types of how she's able to quickly pivot in her conversations. It's great.
Yeah, sure, sure. Some really great recommendations. So, a couple that I'm going to look up myself. So, appreciate that, Paula. All right. So, we've gotten this far. It is called the Rock and Roll Research Podcast. You and I have never talked music, never
No,
once, as I recall.
I don't
So
think so.
I am super fascinated. We're both from the Midwest, right? You're from Wisconsin. I'm from Minnesota.
Yeah.
So I am really fascinated to hear what your choices will be to this question. So Paula, you know what's coming. You're stranded on a desert island, right? You have three records of your choosing to keep you company for the rest of your days. What are those records?
Oh, I want to be so clear about this. And as you know, it's challenging. Okay. So I did think about like the range of types of music that I would like. Like I like really soulful things and I really like
Mhm.
super high energy things. So I'm
Yeah.
thinking I'm in the space with a few alternatives I'm going to throw in there too. So I think probably my all-time favorite album is Sinead O'Connor's The Lion and the Cobra.
Yeah, very interesting choice. Yeah. I
Yeah,
can I
I
can get
that
behind some Sinead.
song, the song Mandinka, but I
Mhm.
do know Mandinka. I didn't hit that note. But that is a song that people who went to school with me just would hear that over and over.
Yeah.
And in the, in that genre, like I've got my Pat Benatar and my Stevie Nicks. But I came up with Sinead as that person.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah, she's amazing. Rest in peace. And then, okay, then toss up, and I'll see what I say here. Rolling Stones or Queen?
I'm going to put your feet to the fire. You have to make a
Okay,
choice
feet to the fire. Wow,
because I
this
put
is
it in a
tough.
spreadsheet, right?
I actually think I know you're putting a spreadsheet. Of course you are. I'm gonna lean towards Queen, like greatest
Okay.
hits. Yeah, just because again, the range, the voices, just there's a lot to love about Queen.
Yeah.
And then finally, this is a newer space for me, and I'm gonna go with John Baptiste. He had an
Interesting.
album,
Yeah.
yeah, he's had an album called We Are, and I love the song Freedom that he sings.
Mhm.
As a matter of fact, I am trying to push he's such an innovator in the space, right? He takes
Right.
from soul and R&B and jazz, and he creates something new. And I think on a desert island, I could sit and listen and study and learn like his genius.
Yeah.
So I love that. And I'm actually going to go see him next week
Oh,
in
cool.
concert. So I'm excited about that. Um, and at our conference, I co-presented a workshop with our dear friend Karin Kirsten. And I was
Oh, very nice.
hopeful that I could do a sing along with people, but didn't quite work in my workshop. So I'm going to work on that.
Was it because people weren't willing to do it or
I
too
think it
shy?
requires a very purposeful setup. And like, as I was saying, we need to create the design of the experience. I do think people are open to singing in a sing-along type of setting. It just needs to be set up properly, and I need to give that some more thought.
Okay, very cool. Very cool. Well, if the sing along includes Slayer, definitely call me. I'm in.
Blair, yes.
Slayer. Yes, that's my request.
Okay, no problem. I'll think of you.
That's what I thought you'd want on your desert island. A little bit of Slayer, keep the energy high, that sort of thing. But that's
Right.
okay. That's okay. You've got great choices, so it works out.
I didn't want to brown nose too much.
I'm always listening for it. It's like, who's gonna say something?
Well, I appreciate you being on my agenda today, my RRR agenda here. I'm
Yeah,
really
look at that.
with you.
You've cleared your morning for me, so I'm honored. But great chat, Paula. I've learned a lot about you that's really interesting, and definitely some stuff I'd love to dig into in the future. And the good news is, I know I'll see you somewhere soon. It just kind of works out that way. So, very excited about seeing you somewhere soon and continuing our conversation. Thanks so much for doing the podcast, Paula. Talk soon and rock and roll.